Aquarius, welcome to your astrology reading for the month of August. So before I jump into this is going to be most applicable for your rising sign, which is how other people perceive you. It's still applicable for your sun sign, which is how you express yourself. And then of course your moon sign, which is how you perceive everything internally. So you can kind of see when you listen to all three, just kind of how the month is going to play out for you holistically. Jumping into the energy of the month, we have a lot of Leo energy showing up here. You're going to find that pretty early on, but we also have Mercury stationing retrograde. And so I know this one is usually the one that everybody talks about. Everybody knows when Mercury stations retrograde because it's always confused conversation, things like that. And really what happens when Mercury stations retrograde is a lot of that communication and understanding of things, it's all directed inward. And so it's just maybe internal conversations, a different way of thinking about things here. And so we've actually been in the pre-shadow period since July 16th. And honestly, this goes in like a list of planets that are already retrograde. So there's a lot of internal energy right now. We see it with Pluto in Aquarius, Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, and then Chiron in Aries. And so lots of energy. Let's just add Mercury into the mix. Starting off the month, we have the new moon in the sign of Leo. And so that happens on August 4th at 7:13 in the morning Eastern time. When this happens, you've got the sun and the moon. They're at the same degree point in the sky. So this is an overlapping energy. For you, this is all sitting in your 7th house. And so what this means is that when it comes to your significant other or those significant relationships in your life, those one-to-one relationships, you're really stepping out of your comfort zone here in the way that you're expressing yourself, how you feel about this other person, how you feel about the relationship in general. And so that new moon is really highlighting this energy. The sun and moon will also sextile both Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. And so Mars and Jupiter in Gemini are in your 5th house. And so Mars is the planet of action. Jupiter wants to grow and expand things. 5th house is the house of children. It's your passion projects, hobbies, maybe short-term relationships, although in this context, that one doesn't really make a lot of sense just because we're talking about your significant relationships. Don't really want to get into short-term relationships at the same time. We're just going to put that aside. Some people do that, not everybody. Anyway, Mars and Jupiter in this energy. So expressing how you feel within this, maybe with your spouse, your significant relationship here, it's creating an opportunity for you to maybe grow and expand your family if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking to have more children, this would be taking some sort of action to grow or expand and have more children here. And so it's a sextile. This is an opportunity. This is not something that is automatically going to happen. This would be something that you actively have to try and make happen. It's an opportunity you would need to seize. So I'm just putting that out there. We'll also have the sun and moon trine the north node in Aries. And so the north node is an eclipse. The eclipses are those faded points. And so what's happening here is however you're expressing yourself with your significant other, how you feel about the relationship in general, it's going to completely align with anything that you're doing from a conversation standpoint. That Aries energy is sitting in your 3rd house. 3rd house is your communication. And so there's some sort of faded action that you're taking and it relates to your conversation. So however you're speaking to your spouse or your significant other right now, these feel like very significant conversations that are taking place, really necessary in order for something within this connection to either grow, expand, if that's what you want to do, or, there's something here. This feels like faded conversations that need to take place here, very significant. And then later that same day, we'll have Venus enter the sign of Virgo. And so also on the 4th at 10:23 p.m. Eastern time. And so when this happens, we'll have Venus in Virgo conjunct Mercury in Virgo. Venus in Virgo. So Virgo is a very healing energy. It's a very analytical energy. It is the hermit in tarot. And so this is a lot of going inside, thinking things through, figuring out, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to fix? How do I need to heal this kind of energy? Venus likes to bring things together. It rules relationships. And so when this happens here, Venus in Virgo is in your 8th house. 8th house is other people's money, could be power and control issues, intimacy issues, things like that. It is death and rebirth. There is a transformation component connected to this house, and it's a pretty significant one. And so if you are trying to bring things together here internally for yourself, this is some sort of internal transformation, that's where Venus in Virgo kind of takes place. Because Venus in Virgo, Venus likes to bring things together. So think of it as like almost closing a wound, because Virgo is a healing energy. So this is about bringing something together. It will conjunct Mercury in the sign of Virgo. So there might be conversations that you're having about fixing something, resolving something here. There's some sort of discussion around things that need to change or things that are changing that are for your benefit. And because of the timing of this new moon, it's not highlighted here who you're having the conversations with, but it looks like it's probably your significant other. We'll also have Venus in Virgo trine Chiron and Aries. And so when it comes to these conversations, there is a healing component to the conversations. There's some sort of wound that is coming to the surface that does need to be healed as it relates to having some sort of conversation. So if there's a subject that maybe you didn't feel comfortable discussing before, this would indicate that you're in this energy of kind of fixing, resolving it, talking about it, finding a way to kind of mend something here. We'll also have Venus in Virgo square Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And so for you, Taurus is sitting in your house of home. Uranus is another planet of transformation. And so what we can see here is we've got Venus in Virgo in a house of transformation, opposite, or not opposite, but it's creating obstacles and challenges to any kind of changes that are already taking place at home. And so whatever it is that you're trying to balance within yourself, resolve, fix, whatever it is within yourself, it's creating challenges to any kind of changes that are already taking place in your home environment. We're going to see this show up throughout the month, that square Uranus in the sign of Taurus. It's going to show up a little bit differently, but then towards the end of the month, it does get a little bit easier. And then on the 5th, we have Mercury station retrograde. So it starts off in the sign of Virgo. We'll see that it goes back into the sign of Leo before it stations direct again. But for now, when it stations retrograde, it will be in the sign of Virgo. That is going to happen on the 5th at 12:56 in the morning Eastern time. And so Virgo, again, sitting in that house of transformation. Because of the timing of this, I mean, it's literally 2.5 hours after Venus enters Virgo and has those conversations. Mercury retrograde will now conjunct Venus in the sign of Virgo. And so at the same time you're having these conversations, you're also internally processing. These are things that are not happening in a vacuum. There's a blend of energy that's taking place here. And so whatever it is that you're trying to heal, you're really thinking things through. You're really trying to understand the impact here. What is it that you need to do? How do I fix this within myself? How do I find that kind of inner balance that I'm trying to create? And then we'll have Mercury retrograde square Mars in the sign of Gemini. And so as you're trying to find this inner balance, you're healing something here internally for yourself. It's creating some sort of obstacle or challenge to any kind of action you want to take as it relates to children, your passion projects, things that you enjoy doing outside of work. And so what this just kind of looks like to me is you're very focused on doing something internally. So the external action, that can wait. Now might not be the right time. If you feel like it is, I mean, you can always work with this energy. It's a square energy. You just have to work through it. And then we'll have Mercury retrograde square Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And so again, really internally processing, finding that inner balance, that inner healing that needs to take place. It's creating some sort of obstacle or challenge to any kind of change that's happening in your home environment. Again, it just feels like there's this really heavy emphasis on kind of working internally before you do anything that's external to you. And these changes that would be happening in your home environment could be external to you. And so you could put the effort in, work with the energy. You would just need to do that though, because it's not going to happen on its own. And then we do have Lionsgate on August 8th. And so this is something that has an astrology component, a tarot component, and really a numerology component because of that 8-8, that symbol of infinity. I'm going to do a separate video on this. It's probably going to be in the daily read where it's just a longer video. And we're in an 8 year, so this one feels a little bit more significant. So I did want to highlight that here. I'm not going to go into depth right now. In fact, I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about Mercury being retrograde. So when Mercury went retrograde on the 5th in the sign of Virgo, on the 14th, it actually slides back into the sign of Leo. And so that's going to happen at 8:16 in the evening Eastern time. And so when this happens, Mercury is going to be in close proximity to the sun. This conjunction indicates that while you're thinking about things, you're also expressing yourself here within your significant relationship, within maybe your marriage or just in general, those significant relationships in your life, because that Leo energy is sitting in your 7th house. And so while Mercury is retrograde in that 7th house energy, it's a lot of you internally thinking things through, understanding the impact of maybe some of these conversations that are taking place, the way that you're expressing yourself, all of these things. Mercury retrograde will also trine the moon in Sagittarius. Sagittarius for you occupies your house of community. So these are your friends. This is your group of friends. It's not the individual relationships, it's the collective and how you feel about this collective group of friends. And Sagittarius, very big picture oriented, very truth oriented, and very optimistic here. So as you're thinking through everything that's happening within your significant relationship here, it's going to easily blend with the direction or maybe the relationships that you have with that group of friends. Mercury retrograde will also trine Chiron in Aries. And so when it comes to discussing any kind of wound that has come to the surface here, it could even be something connected to communication. It could be something where you specifically choose words and you choose a style of communication that doesn't trigger something. That is absolutely a Chiron type of energy, where you're just afraid to speak in a certain way or voice things in a specific way. So like maybe it's because Aries is a very direct energy, and so this wound might be connected to being more vague in your conversation and not really saying exactly what you're thinking, what you're feeling, because you're afraid of offending somebody else, because maybe at some point in the past you did and it blew up in your face. And so it's more of like that kind of avoidance kind of conversation, that style of communication. And so Chiron in Aries, that is a wound that has been coming to the surface. So at this point, you're probably already aware of it. It's been showing up here. But whatever you're thinking about when it comes to your significant other, that relationship in general, it's going to easily blend with whatever needs to change within the way that you communicate, whatever that wound is that's coming to the surface. There's something here that it's just going to easily address that wound. And then we'll see that Mercury retrograde in Leo will square Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And so Taurus, again, sitting in your 4th house of home, those changes that are taking place within your home environment. So whatever it is that you're internally processing and thinking about with that significant other, it's going to create challenges to the way things are changing in your home environment. And it could be that maybe you just haven't had time to process all of that because you've been focused on other things. And so that square energy does indicate you can work with it. Again, it's going to keep showing up here until we get to the end of the month. And then on the 19th, we have the full moon in the sign of Aquarius. So that's going to happen at 2:26 in the afternoon Eastern time. And so when this happens, you've got the sun in the sign of Leo, you've got the moon in the sign of Aquarius. The sun is a very me action oriented, so it's a very self action oriented type of energy. Aquarius, moon in Aquarius, how do you feel about some sort of change that's taking place? Aquarius is a collective type of energy. And so how do you feel in general about maybe changes that are taking place? Liberating, so breaking down structures, things like that. The way this impacts you, because you are Aquarius, so we've got the sun sitting in your house of your significant other. So that relationship itself versus how you feel about yourself. And so this is a lot of we, but kind of different here because the Aquarius energy is you. And so it's an opposing energy. So there's something about the way that you're expressing yourself in your relationship that is different than how you normally feel about yourself. And so again, you can find that happy medium. It just requires finding that medium. And with any full moon, the sun and the moon are going to have different conversations with planets here. And so during this full moon, the sun will conjunct Mercury retrograde in the sign of Leo. And so again, the way that you're expressing yourself, the way that you're interpreting, the way that you're expressing yourself in that significant relationship, definitely being highlighted here, easy blend of energy. Whereas how you feel about yourself is going to be opposite that Mercury retrograde. So that internal processing of that relationship, how do you feel about that relationship, what's happening within that relationship, what conversations are taking place, it is going to be directly opposite how you feel about yourself. So this could just indicate that you've really stepped outside your comfort zone in the way that you're communicating with that person, the types of conversations that you're having here. We will have the Sun trine Chiron in the sign of Aries. And so the way that you're expressing yourself in that significant relationship, it's going to easily blend with whatever this wound is that's coming to the surface. It's going to allow you to take some sort of action here that helps to heal that wound. And so this is a wound around conversation. So it could be something, again, maybe you were afraid to say something directly. Now you are, because that Sun in Leo wants you to say something direct. Leo is a very direct, very bold type of energy here. So it's going to help. It's going to help heal that wound. It's going to help you understand the impact that it has had on you. The moon in Aquarius is actually going to sextile Chiron in Aries, and this is another positive aspect here. And so how you feel about yourself is creating an opportunity for you to do additional action, take additional action as it relates to this wound. Maybe it's your communication style. And so it could be that you're gaining confidence the more that you express yourself with your significant other. It's helping you understand and maybe feel better about things that you feel about yourself, seeing yourself in a different light, kind of encouraging you to continue going down that path, because that would be that sextile where it's giving you an opportunity to take more action to heal that wound. The Sun and Moon in Leo, or the Sun in Leo, the Moon in Aquarius, will both square Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And so this is a T-square. All you need to know is the way that you're expressing yourself within your significant relationship and the way that you feel about yourself, they're each individually creating challenges to understanding the changes that are taking place in your home environment, processing those in some sort of way. And so again, it feels like there's a lot of energy focused on kind of the internal workings of you and the things that you deal with directly on a regular basis, as opposed to these changes that are taking place at home. The moon in Aquarius will trine Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. And so how you feel about yourself, it's going to easily blend with whatever action that you want to take as it comes to children, your passion projects, hobbies, things like that. And so it's an easy flow of energy. So any kind of growth or expansion that you want to take on as it relates to maybe having more kids, doing more with your passion projects, your hobbies, things like that, how you feel about yourself easily blends with this energy. This is something that you really want to do, and you really want to do it in a way that it seems easy and seamless. And this is that kind of energy where it's just going to feel very organic to do this. And then on the 22nd, we'll have the Sun enter the sign of Virgo. And so that's going to happen at 10:55 in the morning Eastern time. When the Sun enters the sign of Virgo, it will conjunct Mercury retrograde that is still in the sign of Leo. The Sun in Virgo is a self-expression, but Virgo itself is a very internal energy. So this is about maybe taking that step back, thinking things through, really kind of going inside, finding a way to heal so that you be able to move forward and go after exactly what you want here. And so the Sun in Virgo is sitting in your 8th house. 8th house is the house of transformation, so it's death and rebirth. There's more to it than that. So there is other people's income, there's debt, maybe some sort of inheritance here. Intimacy issues could be coming to the surface, power and control. There's a lot that's incorporated in that 8th house, but that 8th house is about transformation, very heavily highlighting death and rebirth specifically. And so you might be expressing yourself in such a way that is creating some sort of internal transformation within you, or understanding what this healing process looks like for you, because we've seen a lot of healing taking place as it relates to your communication style. And so this would be a way of expressing it. And so the Sun in Virgo conjunct Mercury retrograde in Leo, the way that you're expressing yourself, or expressing maybe the depths of this healing journey, how you feel about everything, it's going to easily blend with understanding your significant other and that relationship, and maybe any kind of communication that you've had with this person. And so this is a really easy blend of energy. In fact, this is probably the most beneficial blend of this energy that I've seen in all of the zodiac readings. We'll also have the Sun in Virgo trine Chiron in Aries. And so expressing that inner self, that inner transformation that's taking place, that healing energy, it's going to easily blend with whatever wound has been coming to the surface. And so again, when it comes to your communication, maybe you've always been afraid to express your innermost thoughts and feelings. Maybe you were afraid of just being that open and vulnerable because at some point in the past, you probably were, and it did not go the way that you wanted to go. it was held against you in some sort of way. This would be some sort of wound that's coming to the surface that now you're finding is very easy to work with, that you're just kind of naturally healing from this, because this is an easy flowing energy. So the more you seem to express yourself within this relationship, express the depths of your feelings, the depth of your healing, just continues to heal this kind of conversational type of wound. And then the Sun in Virgo will square Uranus in the sign of Taurus, just like we've been seeing. And so how you're expressing your innermost thoughts and feelings, that healing journey that you've been on, it's creating obstacles or challenges to whatever changes are taking place within your home environment. But again, it feels like the emphasis right now during the month of August seems to be on you and that specific relationship, as opposed to maybe other things that are happening externally. And then on the 28th, we have Mercury station direct. So that's going to happen at 5:14 in the afternoon Eastern time. And so when this happens, Mercury is still in the sign of Leo. It will trine Chiron in the sign of Aries. They're both fire signs, so that's a lot of fire. Mercury and Leo, so these are conversations that you're having with your significant other. And again, easily blends with whatever action that you're taking as it relates to that wound that's been coming to the surface. So the more that you seem to talk to the people around you, the easier it is to work with this wound, the easier and more natural it feels to heal this energy, because this is another one of those where it's just an easy blend of energy here. And then we'll have Mercury and Leo sextile Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. So whatever conversations are happening with your significant other, it's creating an opportunity, again, for maybe growth and expansion. And so taking some sort of action here that causes growth and expansion, maybe having children, having more children, going after your passions, your hobbies, things like that. So that's all that fifth house energy. Mercury and Leo will also square Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And so these conversations that you're having with your significant other, these bold kind of out of your comfort zone kind of conversations, it's creating challenges to those changes that are taking place within your home environment. But again, square energy, you can work with it. And we actually start to see that get a little bit better the next day. So on the 29th, Venus enters the sign of Libra. That happens at 9:23 in the morning Eastern time. And so Venus rules the sign of Libra. Libra is all about balance. Venus is all about bringing things together. It rules relationships, what you value, things like that. And when Venus enters Libra, it will trine Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And so Libra occupies your ninth house. So it rules your ninth house, and that's growth and expansion. Uranus and Taurus, again, those changes that are taking place in your home environment. So Venus and Libra, whatever it is that you value, whatever it is that you're trying to balance from a growth standpoint, trying to find kind of that medium there, it's going to easily align with whatever changes are taking place at home. And so I do like to see that, because you're kind of in this kind of growth phase because of all the healing that's taking place. And this is saying, okay, well, if you find a way to balance that, then the changes that are taking place in your home environment, they won't be difficult. You'll easily navigate those, because this is an easy flowing energy. Venus in Libra will also trine Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And so balancing that growth that you're going through and finding a way to really work with that energy and highlighting here what you value, it's going to easily blend with whatever internal changes are happening to you already, because that Pluto retrograde is sitting in your first house. This is the house of you, your physical self. And so easy blend of energy. It's really about putting things into some sort of harmonious balance. And then Venus in Libra will also square Mars in the sign of Gemini. And so as you're finding this kind of balance, growth opportunity here, and you're really kind of figuring out how do you navigate all of this energy, it is creating some sort of obstacle or challenge. So if you wanted to take any kind of additional action as it relates to children, your passion projects, things like that, it's just creating challenges to being able to take that kind of action, because really the kind of focus right now is on you internally. And so again, internal, external, you can work with the energy if you do want to take some sort of action as it relates to children or passions, something along those lines, but you would have to work with the energy. And then we'll have Venus in Libra opposite Neptune retrograde in the sign of Pisces. And so Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. So both Neptune, the planet, Pisces, the sign, they're all about your dreams and your goals. And sometimes these dreams and goals can get so far out of reality that they're like way up here, unrealistic, never going to be practical from an execution standpoint. When Neptune stationed retrograde in the sign of Pisces, this was really about maybe taking some sort of stock in your dreams. Are they realistic? Can you make those a reality? Is there something here that you need to see differently? Do you need to reevaluate that dream? Because that Neptune and Pisces energy, when it's retrograde, it's about lifting the veil, seeing the truth of your dreams. And what does that mean? And so as you're trying to balance your inner growth here, it is opposite any kind of goals and dreams that you've had around your personal finances. And this just indicates that maybe you're just needing to do more reevaluation of your goals and your dreams as it relates to your personal finances and the things that you value. But again, it's an opposing type of energy, so it is that push-pull. You just have to find the happy medium if you want to work with it. So Aquarius, this is your reading. I hope it resonates. If it did, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care.